you are. And because of the virtual nature of this meeting, I will now ask Liz Sund to call the roll in alphabetical order to determine we have a quorum. Liz?
All right, Councilmember Barber.
Here.
Chambliss.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Ferguson.
Here.
Fredson.
Here.
Gonzalez. Gonzalez. Johnson.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lilligren.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Sterner. Sterner. Vento.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Zurin.
Present.
And Chair Zelli.
I'm here. Thanks, everyone. We're on to the agenda. We have a fairly short agenda, but two interesting information items. So if there is no objection, we will consider the agenda approved. And no objections, so we're on to approval of the minutes. This is the minutes of our meeting on August 26th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Cummings moves approval.
Thank you, Councilmember Cummings. Is there a second?
Vento seconds.
Thank you, Sue. Liz, any discussion? All right, Liz, call the roll.
Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez. Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Sterner. Sterner. Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin. And Chair
Aye.
Zelli.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
And aye. Great, that minutes are approved. Next order of business is the consent agenda. We have a couple items. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Moved by Lee.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Second by Barber.
Thank you, Councilmember Barber. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Liz, call the roll.
Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez. Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Sterner. Councilmember Sterner is having audio problems.
Okay.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
And Chair Zelli.
Aye. All right, that motion is carried. And now we're on to the reports of standing committees, and there are no reports from Community Development, Environment, and Transportation committees. The Management Committee did have a report on the consent agenda. So next is the joint report of the Environment and Community Development committees, and we'll hear from Council Member Lilligren.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's business item 2020-225 to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Hawkins and approve their comprehensive sewer plan. Because the city of Hawkins is connected to the regional wastewater system, this item was scheduled to be heard in both the Community Development and Environment committees. The Environment Committee was canceled for the last 2 meetings, but they were planning to place this item on their consent agenda. So with that chair's permission, this item was forwarded to the council for final action. The city of Hawkins is proposing to revise its population and employment forecasts upward to account for growth over the last 5 years that have outpaced expectations. Revised forecasts expect population growth by 1,700 people and by 2,000 jobs by 2040. Council staff found that the 2040 plan conforms to regional systems plans, is consistent with council policies with proposed revisions, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. The recommendations from the Community Development Committee to authorize the City of Hawkins to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, to revise the city's forecast upwards as shown in Table 1 of the attached review record, and to advise the city to first, when available, provide the council with the dates of the 2 watershed districts approval of the final local water management plan and the date the city adopted the final local water management plan, and also to implement the advisory comments in the review record for water supply. And the recommendation from the Environment Committee is to approve the City of Hopkins Comprehensive Sewer Plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Councilmember Cummings is pleased to offer a second.
Our esteemed Vice Chair, who hails from Hopkins, is. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, Liz, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
thank you. Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Sterner sent me a message saying aye. Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Lilligren. Next is other business, and here are the reports that we've been looking forward to. I am especially thrilled to introduce our Southwest Light Rail project team head, Jim Alexander, who's going to be giving us an update on the project, also the Federal Transit Administration's full funding grant agreement status. And I know if you have been anywhere around the Twin Cities this summer, this was a huge summer of construction. And if you're like me, who live near the line, you're very aware of the progress. And but sometimes, like an elephant, you're most aware of what's next to you. But it's really great to have this update at this time to kind of show to the tremendous progress of this entire line has taken recently. And Jim, you're going to introduce the rest of your team.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. This is Jim Alexander. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Project Director. So I'll give you an update. I think we last gave you all an update back in May. So it's just kind of a continuation of giving you a regular update on the project. As Chair mentioned, a lot of activity out there. Greg, I'm not seeing, or do you have the PowerPoint up? All right. Okay, well, I'll just prompt you, Greg, as we go through. So on the agenda for the next slide there, we're going to give you an update on the project. I'll give you an overview of the civil construction throughout the summer here. Tracy Jackson with the Office of Equal Opportunity will talk about Dbe and Workforce, and Sam O'Connell from our project office will talk about outreach, and I'll finish up with the status report on the Ffga. Next slide, please. Well, I guess next one. So these are just background slides that you've all seen before, but essentially opening in 2023, 14.5 miles, 16 stations, direct link over to St. Paul and connections to down the south end of the metro airport in Mall of America. Next slide. Want to really highlight these next two slides because we need to remember this what this project is going to be doing, and really it brings access to jobs. And you can see the numbers here that are projected. More importantly, down at the bottom, there are 17 Fortune 500 companies along the alignment. That's pretty significant. Next slide. The other piece I'd like to just continue to highlight is that there's a lot of development along Southwest stations already. And you can see a sampling of the residential projects underway or already well underway, almost getting finished getting built. Elevate down at the bottom, for example, that's already being occupied. But a lot of affordable units through this process. We're really proud to. The cities and the county have and the Met Council have done a lot of work in trying to make these projects, get these projects moving, and really kind of highlight the station areas around the Southwest LRT. Next slide, please. So I have a few slides on construction. We'll start out at the west end, and you can see a little tip of the elevate there building, but this is the Prairie Center Drive bridge that goes over Technology and Prairie Center Drive and will lead up to that water tower in Eden Prairie. Next slide. This is kind of the other end of that area. This is Valley View, and so you see the water tower in the background quite, but this is another bridge for LRT that will take us from essentially Eden Prairie in the heart of it and bring us into the Golden Triangle area. Next slide, please. This is one of our stations that's underway, Golden Triangle stations, coming well along. Last time I think I showed you just kind of a framework of a structure. It's really starting to come together here. Next slide. Highway 62 in the background. This is the east end of the LRT tunnel that the contractor is building, and that's getting well underway. They're looking to get that all buttoned up later this fall, and we'll be working on the other segment on the south or west end in 2021. Next slide. Another station that's taking shape here, Opus Station. I think last I showed this in May, it was really a pile of dirt, and we're really making some headway on this in this area. Next slide, please. Another station, downtown Hawkins. This is coming along pretty nicely. Next slide. Maybe one of the premier bridges we have on the project. This is a bridge that will cross Excelsior Boulevard in Hawkins. You can see it's is taking shape quite a bit in the background. The concrete's already been placed for that pier table that you see in the distance, and they're starting to take the formwork off of that. So that'll carry the LRT over that roadway and the freight. So Greg, I think we have a video with this. This is over Highway 100 this past weekend, where the contractor moved this about 1.2 million pound bridge structure to the north about 50 feet. Greg, I don't know if you could prompt that. There we go. So we kind of condensed about a 2-hour move into in a few seconds here, featuring Trevor Roy with his magic camera there. But things went pretty well. There was 8 rollers that were under this bridge, and everything had to be in sync to move that bridge about 50 feet to the north in its permanent location. This is for the freight bridge that was built by MnDOT over 100 a couple of years ago, and we've moved that now to the center of the corridors to accommodate room for LRT, which would be on the other side of this bridge. Next slide, please. This is other work that occurred over the weekend. This is near 21st in the Kenilworth corridor, where a new crossing was put in place to accommodate the freight rail. And you see the first freight train coming in through that new track there early in the morning on Tuesday. And I think it's the last picture we have. This is a retaining structure that's been underway all summer long. This is along the BNSF line close to Royalston. And this will allow us to, or actually BNSF, to move their track towards that wall about 25 feet to accommodate LRT as it comes up and out of this freight corridor and makes its way over to the Royalston station. So next slide there. We also give you an update on real estate acquisition status. Things are going along pretty well. Overall, 191 parcels. The private parcels, we have 70 parcels where acquisitions are completed, and 79 are in place. So we just note that we do have full possession of these sites for construction, and we're looking to extend some temporary easements along the line just to make sure we have enough time to finish the work. There would be as-built to be done, and cleanup work that needs to be done. So we'll have that in place. And related to the real estate, we have a total of 177 displacees. You can see that most of those have been closed out. A few are going through appeal, and these 5 remaining are being finalized. So, Mr. Chair, I might pause there if there are any questions from what I presented, and otherwise I'd hand it over to Tracy.
Any questions for Jim at this point? All right, Tracy?
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, good afternoon, Chair and Council members. I'm Tracy Jackson, the Senior Manager in the Office of Equal Opportunity, and I will be providing the Dbe and Workforce update for today. So next slide, thank you. So we continue our equity commitments to the region with Dbe and Workforce participation in our Southwest Light Rail contracting. Just a reminder, the Dbe is measured by dollars and workforce is measured by hours. And today our focus is mostly going to be on the monitoring of the civil contract. So the Dbe goal for Lmjv and civil is 16%. They are exceeding the goal at this time with a 20.9% Dbe achievement. The workforce goals are 32 and 20, and they are at 20.84% people of color and indigenous persons, which I will now refer to as POCI, and they are at 7.61% women, which is currently under the goals, and we'll talk about some of Lmjv's good faith efforts shortly. So next slide. This table represents the Dbe achievement on 3 of the active construction projects, and then you'll see the 1 small demo contract that is complete. So again, civil, we just talked about their Dbe participation exceeding the goal with 20%. And the next one is Aldridge Parsons joint venture, which is our systems contract. And so far it's been kind of slow going. They're just getting started. And they submitted a couple of invoices, which has just a small amount of Dbe participation on it. And then the 3rd active contract is Ellis Black. And with us, the Franklin operations and maintenance expansion. And they are just starting their first billing. So typically with the Dbe participation, it does start out kind of slow and then it ramps up, and the numbers you'll be seeing increasing soon. Next slide. So this is per request, we are breaking down the contracts for the Dbes. So we have 52 Dbes on the civil contract that Lmjv is committed to. And this chart here disaggregates it by ethnic group. So Lmjv's commitments to Dbes are the 178,877,000, which represents 22% of their current contract. So if for an example here, so the blue piece of pie there to your right is the Asian Pacific, and that shows that it's 21% and over $37 million. And that represents 3 Asian Pacific DBE businesses. So that slice. So if you want to walk down each one, that's how many businesses that are, what it does, it shows you the picture of ownership of the DBEs that were awarded the work on civil contract. Next slide. Okay, and then again, this chart represents the 52 DBEs, and this breaks it down by the gender, which is very close to a 50-50 split. 37 of the DBEs are woman-owned, and 15 are owned by men. Okay, next slide. So next we're going to move into workforce measured by hours. So again, for civil contract, Lmjv has reported over 63,000 hours for June, and cumulative total project over 579,000 hours. So if you look to, so the goals 32 and 20 in the green, if you look to the blue, that's showing June's achievement, and then the yellow columns is showing them their cumulative to date. So they are at 7.61 women and 20.84% POCI, which is showing that they're below the goals set for the project. We do anticipate that these numbers will increase as construction continues. Again, these are the June hours we've shown as they're just turning in their July numbers right now. There is a slight uptick in both women and POCI. Next slide. So this is also representing the workforce, disaggregated hours into gender and ethnic groups of all workers' hours reported on the project, including white men. So you'll see a breakdown by women and men with their totals. And then on the bottom line is the white, where you see the men, that's like the majority there of 73%. But again, there's this data provides opportunity and for Lmjv to work with their recruitment for women in POCI. Next slide. Okay, so now I'd like to share with you the monitoring and compliance that the Council Office of Equal Opportunity and our partners at the Minnesota Department of Human Rights are conducting in regards to Lmjv's workforce good faith efforts. So earlier this year in March, we started meeting monthly with them. And this is in order to discuss their efforts that they're making to increase their participation and how they were going to meet the goals. Most recently, in August, we requested that Lmjv provide us with an updated workforce plan. We received their original plan at time of bid, which was well over 2 years ago. It was May of 2018, and we deemed it was time to get an update with their schedule. So the update includes hiring forecast, and as you'll see on here, Lmjv's hiring forecast for the rest of 2020 and 2021 is over 90 plus workers that they're looking to hire in many different trades. Recruitment efforts. They recently held a virtual career fair. They continue to attend other events and recruit women and people of color and Indigenous persons. Building strong communities, Erin Koski leads this effort from the council with our workforce team. They have 32 participants in their cohort right now. 11 of them have been placed. 2 of them have actually been placed with the civil contract on Lmjv's team. So there's definitely more opportunity for placement with these teams. We are connecting the Building Strong communities with the other 2 contractors as well. So Ellis Black and Aldridge Parsons joint venture as well. Lmjv also, they're anticipating the participation to increase with the recruitment and the 90 plus workers that they'll be hiring within the next year. and they are recommitting their efforts to meet the goals for workforce. So they remain committed and anticipate percentages to increase. Next slide. So as part of our compliance of the DBE program, our staff conducts commercially useful function, it's what we call commercially useful function site visits. This is where our office confirms that the DBEs are managing and controlling their scope of work with their own equipment and employees. And then we're also looking for any potential DBE fraud. So we typically go to the DBE's office to meet with them in person for our office visits, which you see we've conducted 64 over the summer. However, we're able to maximize our office visits by conducting them virtually through this COVID season we're in. So the photo on the right side here, you'll see our DBE, Tracy Levere with LV Engineering, and Mahad is our intern who is on her computer there conducting a virtual site visit. And then in addition to this virtual, Greg, go ahead and step back one more slide. We are also able to do field visits. So the photo on your left, this is a great way for us to connect with the DBEs, find out how their work is going, and have the opportunity to find out if they have any types of concerns. So here, as you see in the photo on the left, we have our two interns from our office, Charlotta and Mahad, and they're interviewing the DBE Omar from IMO Consulting, who was conducting vibration testing on the project. Again, it's a great way for us to connect. Some of the concerns that we may hear from them, whether it's either in the field or on a virtual site visit, is when can we expect payment, or they may have questions about schedule, or if they're a supplier, maybe about their materials on hand. This gives OEO then to proactively look into these concerns and follow up with the DBEs within a day or two. Then we help connect with project staff. Some of the information we can find out, what pay claim, what invoice, we can find out, oh, the estimated date of pay would be in, 10 days or whatever it might be. So those are some of the things that we do to connect and look into. And then my last slide for today. There you go. So as partnership with MDHR, when our office went out to the construction sites, we were joined by the human rights staff so that they could also conduct their workforce site visits. So with 3 site visits to the construction, MDHR was able to interview 53 workers, and it's kind of the breakdown of gender and the ethnicity, and then representing 13 companies. So in closing, that's the Dbe and Workforce update, and then I will pause if there's any questions on my slides.
Any questions, Tracy?
Tracy, I just had a quick comment. This is Councilmember Ferguson. I think we've talked about this maybe before, but it's disappointing when we have record unemployment amongst people of color that they are not doing a better job of achieving the goals. And so, I'm not sure what we can do differently, but I just want to be on record saying it's really disappointing the contract is not doing a better job of respecting the goals.
Okay, Council Member and Chair, thank you for that comment. We have had information and data showing the unemployment and how we can continue to promote and recruit folks who are unemployed into the construction trades. So that is definitely conversations that we're having as part of our advisory committee meeting and working with each of these contractors to help increase those numbers.
Any other thoughts, questions? Well, thank you, Tracy. It's great to get that update.
All right, Mr. Chair, we'll hand it off to Sam O'Connell.
All right, thanks, Jim. Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. This is Sam O'Connell, and I'm going to highlight a couple of our activities in outreach and communications. So Greg, if you don't mind moving to the next slide, please. Just as a reminder, an information item that we feel that there's great value in as we share with residents and businesses about our construction activities are our community maps showing activities sort of in the near future. So these are activities that residents and businesses can anticipate occurring near them within the next 6 weeks. So these are maps that we update on a regular basis. And for example, today I'm sharing the map that we show kind of along Excelsior Boulevard in Hawkins, and you can see where we indicate lane closures, upcoming lane closures, bridge work, earthwork, and pile driving. So it gives a sense of what is occurring in terms of activities near our folks. As the chair said, there's probably a community there isn't a community that is well aware of our activities. So this just sort of outlines a little bit of what we are doing. And then we also talk about in a little bit more detail some of the durations as well. So just wanted to share that with council members. So if you do get questions from your constituents, we do have that as a tool to use and share some of the construction information on our website. Greg, if you could move to the next slide, please. Also wanted to provide an update on where we are with our social media metrics. I think this is a good news communication outreach tool for us that we've been using. So again, I'd ask everybody, if they're not subscribed, to make sure they are subscribing to our Friday construction update. And just to kind of give a sense of where we are, we're over 16,600 subscribers, which is fantastic. So every Friday that is sent to either your text, to your phone, or to your inbox, email inbox, and it gives you the next sort of activities in your community for construction updates. And we still are maintaining a pretty high open rate on this, between 46 and 49%. So I'm very happy about this tool, and we continue to see that grow. I would also highlight our Twitter followers. We're expanding in that number as well. So last April, we were about 925. So kind of like right before major construction activities occurred in April of 2019. And then we're sitting at about 1,300 right now. So I would also say thank you to our council members and to the council communications for retweeting a lot of our information, especially when we've had lane closures like this past weekend with Trunk Highway 100. So just wanted to say thank you. And the next slide, just wanted to highlight a little note of kindness. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this, but we just wanted to highlight that we had a resident write in from St. Louis Park about the experience that her husband, who's 88 years old, had with our construction crews, and found his way around Beltline construction, and unfortunately couldn't navigate through some of that construction. So our construction crews actually lifted up his electric moped, which was about 150 pounds, and took him by the arm and helped him navigate across construction. And very happy and pleased to see that. And it was just very nice to even have someone submit that comment, given how extensive our construction has been. So just wanted to share that with you. And if the listener is out there, also thank you for that as well. So those are the highlights of our construction. I'd be happy, Chair, to stand for any questions. Otherwise, I can just turn this back over to Jim for the FFGA update.
Any questions for Sam? I have to say, as a regular subscriber and participant in how our engagement folks are really working with neighborhoods, it's a real hats off to you and your team. And they're very responsive and in a big project.
Thank you.
Jim?
All right. Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Sam. Okay, I just wanted to give you folks an update on the FFGA, the Full Funding Grant Agreement, and kind of remind you about the timeline. Back in March of 2019, we received what's called a Technical Readiness Review Report from FTA, their oversight consultant, essentially giving us the green light that we're ready to apply for the Full Funding Grant Agreement, which we did in August. And subsequent to that, the FTA, as their financial oversight consultant, completed their review of the financial capacity, and that's looking both at the project and looking at Metro Transit and how it will operate the Southwest LRT. And then just recently, a congressional review, more of a notification to Congress, concluded on September 4th for that FFGA, and no negative comments or objections were received. So, Chair, we're in the waiting and just seeing where things land on the FFGA here.
And I would just kind of weigh in on that. This is amazing that we've gotten the project this far, and I really want to put a hats off to the team, to our local partners, both Hennepin County and the coalition of counties that have advanced nearly up to $1 billion. And so to go through this process very closely with the Federal Transit Administration, I kind of put hats off to the professionals there, been very supportive. And now, frankly, this is a really important week to sign the FFGA, allows the federal funding piece to start coming in to keep this project moving. And I have to say we've had tremendous support, particularly from the business community. When you think, and these 5 different municipalities, when you think about the economic impacts, not just jobs, but actual economic growth, and think about the economic recovery that this project is providing, it's quite remarkable. And so hats off to everybody. We went through all the congressional review without a negative comment, and now we're staying tuned. It's as I say, it's a really important week for us, and we're really appreciative of every step in the way toward something that is so critical. And just open it up for questions or comments. Molly.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments. I've been involved in this for coming up on 10 years now, first as a council member in Hopkins and then as mayor. But first of all, Jim, you and your team have done such extraordinary work. It's incredible. And so thanks and kudos to you and everyone involved in this. I mean, it really is unbelievable. I love the video that Trevor Roy did showing the movement of the bridge. Is that going to be, I hope that's online that people can access and look at it. It's just fantastic. But, and also to Sam, I know that we've had groups in Hopkins who've requested that our representative out this way, Nkongo, give updates and speak with groups and answer questions. Very responsive right there, and have gotten great feedback from the groups that have had the pleasure of hearing from our representatives out this way. I think, you know, the comments that I'm going to make, I'm sure would probably be echoed by members in the other cities. This is an incredible project. I think the excitement and the benefits cannot be overstated. Hopkins has a large low to moderate income population, and many are dependent on public transportation to get to and from jobs, or to get to and from school, or to access medical appointments. It's really something. I think that for people who are dependent on public transportation, some people are putting money toward automobiles that money could better be spent on rent or housing or food or medication or other expenses. And this light rail line is going to allow money to be redirected in many cases. I think that'll be really, really important. We have many senior citizens out here, and I think it opens up a whole new expanded world for seniors who either don't drive or would prefer not to drive. In terms of being able to tap in and see their families more readily, or for family members to get out to visit with them, or really to take advantage of a lot of the amenities that the Metro has. I mean, to be able to go downtown on light rail and see a Twins game and not have to worry about parking when the Twins are playing and allowing, so I get all that, but to not have to worry about the traffic and where do I park and paying for parking. I mean, it really just expands everybody's world, which I think is really exciting. And as far as the business piece goes, I literally think there was not a week that passed by that I didn't get a call from a business owner who said we are desperate for workers. We need more people. We need to expand our workforce. And I think that this will do that. We have a couple of large businesses in Hopkins. One of them is was the Super Value Distribution Center, now under new ownership, but they couldn't run their third shift because the buses quit at 10 p.m. And we have a manufacturing site that couldn't run a third shift because they couldn't get workers out here who were dependent on public transportation. It's so critical. I think that young people have said over and over and over that one of the top 3 things they look for when they're deciding where to put down roots and establish a career and raise a family is a robust transit system. And this leg is so critical for that and for people to be able to feed into the rest of our system. I don't think that it can be overstated. And I know that millions of dollars and hundreds and thousands of hours have been put into getting this line up and running. And the thought that we are so close, we're right there at the goal line. It is so exciting. And I'm so looking forward to waking up and seeing the big announcement that the Ffga was signed and sent back. And I took a tour with my grandchildren the other day. We literally went from one end to the other, and as close as we could get, and I was kind of explaining what was going on. I mean, they're the upcoming generation, and they are the ones who are going to be using this. And it's just of such value. The development that's happened, I can speak specifically in Hopkins housing. We talk over and over and over. I think there isn't a meeting that we have that we don't talk about the need for additional housing and at all price points. Oxford Village, which you referenced earlier in the presentation, is affordable housing. That's a PPL development. It also has 4 units that they offer to individuals experiencing homelessness. So the direct effect on addressing absolutely every societal need is huge, and really, really excited to see this come through and wrap it up and be on that first train that runs downtown. So again, Jim, thank you to you and your team, and I'm really looking forward to positive news, hopefully by the end of this week.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Councilmember. Well, that's very compelling. I've got to listen to you more. I got the chills. This is exciting. Anyway, Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Echo everything Molly said. She said it very well. It's a very exciting project, and it's so fun to see all of the construction down here in the Southwest Metro. I get through this area quite a bit, and it's really quite amazing. I've been very, very impressed with how everything has gone so far. Obviously, we're at a really critical juncture with the Ffga. And the timing, at least from my perspective, seems to be quite critical. Do either Jim or Charlie, do either of you care to kind of talk about that a little bit, of the criticality of the timing of that coming from the federal government?
Well, thanks, Councilmember. As I mentioned, we are kind of at the point where our local partners, who have been incredibly supportive, but they have really coming to their full funding, their local commitments. So we don't have sources of funds. It really becomes the federal share that is really important at this time. So we want to keep the momentum. As we say, the train has left the station. It's quite remarkable when you step back and see the project as a whole and think of its impacts both on the current workforce that's doing the work, but also the effects to these communities. So, but I feel really, really positive about it, and I think that it's widely recognized. And but these large, infrastructure, the largest infrastructure project in the state of Minnesota ever, it's a complicated project. And that's where I really admire the present team, because we get so involved as a Met Council on every little thing involving so much that we do: transit, operations, housing, but to think about this project, which has taken decades to bring to this point, is those things don't just happen by themselves. They happen with a lot of smart work and a lot of support. And so hats off to everybody to get it to this point.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-up comment. Just a really big thank you to our local funding partners who've allowed us to get to this point in the absence of the FFGA. This project has taken a great deal of relationship building, and it's been an adventure along the way. But I think that this shows that when people come together, you can get a lot of good work done, and it's really a testament what we can go out and physically see being built now. So thank you to them all.
Thank you, Councilmember Chambliss.
Enjoyed the presentation. It's celebration time. All the comments were great, on point, and it shows what we can do and use as a model for development across the region. And I'm looking forward to having the same type of momentum happen for the Blue Line extension project as well. So whenever we think of the challenges, let's think of the challenges that we had with the Southwest line and how we overcame them. We can do the same thing.
Thank you, Councilmember Chambliss. And it is always important to take note of the incredible benefits that come from what these projects do, particularly when we're, working through all the little issues. And I think this is a model not just for ourselves, but for other communities. Any other thoughts, questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You guys, again, hats off to the team. I'm just going to echo what everybody else said. Watching this for well over a decade. And I really appreciate, too, the description of the line with those 17 Fortune 500 companies and all those jobs and getting people, from one end to the other and, from all the other communities who are coming into that line. That was how the preferred route was eventually decided, because there were other routes looked at, but that economic impact, seeing it really happening. You guys have done a great job on this, and everybody has pushed so hard. And I want to thank Chair Barber and Transportation, Charlie, you too, and the various roles that you've had over the many years, being an advocate for transportation. And Molly, you again have just been right up there leading the way. I got to see it when I was back at Twin West as Director of Government Affairs back in the day, but I just want all the people that have had to push this rope uphill for all these years. It's just exciting. And then I just want to do a thank you to Councilmember Ferguson too for his role as chair of the management committee, because we really do talk about our DBE goals. And I think he has brought a lot of great leadership and clarity and really pushing how we can continue to expand opportunity in that arena. And so, maybe when management meets again, we can just get a little debrief on maybe some of the obstacles or difficulties or just the challenges, whatever it might be for the contractors who, and I know we're not done with the project yet. There might be some, increases as it was stated in the presentation, but, just want to really keep our focus on that. And then certainly as we move in to the Blue Line extension and other work. But I just want to say shout out to the management committee and staff there too for pushing and keeping an eye on that piece of this.
Councilmember Fredson.
Thank you, Chair. Just real quick, I know we don't do these projects to create jobs, but I just wanted to just take a moment to appreciate the job creation as a result of this project. And sometimes you look at the numbers and you don't really drill down on them, but 580,000 hours is the equivalent of 14,540 hour work weeks, or over the course of a year, if this was a 40-hour week for the 52 weeks in a year, it'd be the equivalent of 2,788, jobs for Minnesotans over the course of the year. So I just think that that is one outcome that obviously we're going to build our transportation system, but we're also supporting working families at a really critical time in this economic crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? All right, well, Jim, thank you, and thank your team for presentation today. Your job is far from over. We have to, and we're looking forward to riding some trains. But in the meantime, great work, and stay tuned. We'll have more news as it comes. We have another. Our next presentation is the 2020 Water Supply Planning Report that we give to the Minnesota Legislature, and we're going to hear from Ali Ellison and Alanya Ross. Ali, are you going to kick this off? Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, council members, to give us this opportunity to present this report to you today. My name is Ali Al Hassan. I'm the manager of water supply planning with the Environmental Services. And today my job is to introduce Lanya Ross, who is an environmental analyst with the Water Supply Planning Unit. And Lanya has a master degree in geology from Northern Arizona University. Lanya joined the Met Council in 2006, and by far she is the most senior water supply planning staff right now. And Lanya today, she will be talking about this report, which is a requirement by statute 473.1565. She will go through the report contents, and also she will talk about giving update of the water supply planning activities, findings, efforts, and outcomes and results over the last 15 years. And also she will provide some timelines of what will be next for this report. But one of the things that I just wanted to bring to your attention about this report, we are not talking about what we have been doing only, but also we are talking about how we are doing it. And I think just in reference to the presentation that has been presented before us, building relationship is very important for us to do our job. And that will be reflected in this presentation that Lanya is going to provide to you. With that, I will introduce Lanya Ross to do the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. How does my sound come across?
I think it's okay. Thanks, Alana.
Thank you. This is, I have a kid in school, so we've been doing the distance learning, and I'm testing our Wi-Fi system, so I'm not quite sure. So far, so good, though. Again, I'm Lanya Ross, and I'm in the Water Supply Planning Unit at the Metropolitan Council. I did get my master's degree at Northern Arizona University, but I am a passionate Minnesotan. My son is a 7th generation Minnesotan. One of the things that I'm most fascinated with geologically is the fact that the bedrock aquifers underneath all of our flat glacial sediments are actually very similar to Grand Canyon, which is why I went to study those groundwater conditions. So that's a little bit of what I'm going to talk about today at the absolute highest level. I am presenting about a report to the legislature, and there is a link to the full report on the agenda. So I know some of you have had a chance to look at it. I will be referring to that full report occasionally through this presentation. And I'll try to reference page numbers if that's helpful. Next slide. So before I get started, I just wanted to set a little bit of context. I know some of you are familiar with this, others may not be, and I always think it's a good refresher just to frame water supply planning in the metropolitan area, and particularly to stress that Metropolitan Council has a unique role regarding water supply planning, because we are not a regulator, we're not a water supply utility. Instead, we're leveraging our role as the planning agency and approaching water supply planning work in collaboration and in consultation with a variety of stakeholders across the region. Unlike water supply planning that's done for utility operations or for regulatory purposes, our work is not intended to dictate or to implement a specific solution to any given challenge. Our goal is to support community efforts to identify and to evaluate some different approaches to their water supply challenges so that it helps them make their own local decisions. So there are a lot of decisions being made. We have 186 communities. We have over 100 municipal water suppliers. Many people are getting water from over 60,000 private wells. So groundwater, both bedrock and glacial aquifer, is supplying about 75% of our region's water demand, and the Mississippi River supplies the rest. And it is all of these sources together that are keeping us healthy, that's supporting our economy. It's sustaining our rich natural environment and the livability of our communities. And every drop of water that is being moved from one place to another for a variety of uses comes with a cost. There's the energy to move it, the infrastructure to treat it, and the impact to the source from which it was taken. So it's a very large and complex system. And our role is to help plan for that in a way that's benefiting all of the region's residents with an eye towards both a prosperous and the livability of our communities. That's our high-level goals for planning. So that's the context in which we're doing this work. The scale and complexity of that is part of the reason why the 2005 Minnesota legislature directed the council to do our work. So next slide, please. Minnesota statutes 4731565 specifically charge us with developing and maintaining a base of technical information, developing and periodically updating a metropolitan area master water supply plan, and with making recommendations to clarify roles and responsibilities, to streamline decision-making and approval processes, and to make recommendations for funding. So we don't do this alone. We work very closely with a metropolitan area water supply policy and an advisory committee, affectionately known as MOSAC and TAC. And we also are working very closely in collaboration with local, state, and even federal stakeholders across the metro area. This same statute does require us to report back to the legislature regarding our findings, recommendations, and planning activities. And we are to include that in the Minnesota Water Plan, and we may provide 5-year interim reports as necessary. And so that is the report that I'm sharing with you today. And we will be submitting it with the EQB as part of the Minnesota Water Plan to the legislature. So I just want to walk you through some of the content in that report and highlight the fact that this is really a package that summarizes the work that we have done, not just the Met Council, but with our partners since 2005. So if you want to know the council's sort of scope of water supply planning, hopefully this is the document you can look at and get a sense of that history and what we've accomplished. Next slide. Really quickly overview the contents of the report. I mentioned summarized work since 2005. The content itself draws on the work we've done and the content we developed as part of Thrive MSP 2040, the Water Resources Policy Plan, and the Master Water Supply Plan. And we're also drawing from a 2017 report to the legislature by the Metro Area Water Supply Advisory Committee. So a lot of this content is not new, but I think we're really trying to highlight some of the key messages that we've heard from those groups and others. The shape and the content of the report was also informed by some discussion with the director of the Legislative Subcommittee on Minnesota Water Policy, what would be useful to highlight and showcase to that audience. We've talked with Environment Committee. We've also brought this report to the Metro Area Water Supply Advisory Committees. What we heard from them was the importance of showcasing the collaboration that we've done and we've accomplished through the years, being upfront about the challenges we have with water supply. We're a very water-rich state. We're a water-rich region. That does not mean we don't have some challenges. And we also want to highlight the tools and the programs that have been developed to help stakeholders across the region take action, because we have challenges, but we're also working to address them. So We have some water supply at a glance, just background information, and I would direct you in the report to pages 5 and 6. So if you want just a quick snapshot of what's going on, that's where you would find it. We have shared principles. It's not just about what we do, but how we do it, and really highlighting the principles in Thrive and stressing particularly the collaboration that we have been trying to build over the years. So that's on page 9. A big part of the report is documenting the work we've done. So what are the activities and projects and programs we've done to support collaboration? What have we done for technical investigations, the planning milestones we've made, and then also some of the key implementation projects that we've supported. And that's on pages 10, 11, 14. But I'm a geek. My favorite part of this is actually the appendix. So I would encourage you to look at the tables there. If you just want to know what are all the projects that this part of the council has done, they are listed out through time. And if you really want to know the specifics of what they're called and how to request any particular study, the bibliography is a long list of studies that we've done. So I kind of encourage you to dig deep if that's your interest. We also have a high-level discussion of the outcomes and where we see future work might be going. So pages 17. So those are just some highlights to pique your interest. Next slide. This is just to give you a little taste of what's in there so you don't have to go digging through the report itself. But I think it's important for people to be able to know some key points about the water supply system in the region. So in the water supply at a glance section, we're highlighting 100 municipal water supply systems. Many people don't know that 1,500 square miles of the metropolitan area has been designated for source water protection. And so there are some implications for land use planning in those areas. We have over 10,000 miles of local water supply distribution pipe in the metropolitan area. That's added on to the 10,000 miles of sanitary pipe. So there's some very big investments that we have made in making sure that we have adequate clean water in our region. Again, 60,000 private domestic wells. So we talk a lot about municipal water supply in our metro area, but we cannot forget that many people here, I'm sure some of you, get their water from a private well, and that has a whole different set of water supply challenges to it. And many of our businesses are actually supported by private wells, and so needing to make sure that they have access to the water that they need. Next slide. I bring that up because it really stresses the importance of the collaboration. We need to bring people together so we can share information, share lessons learned, understand where we want to direct resources. And so this is just a couple of maps that highlight, on the left, the communities and counties who are currently represented in the Metro Area Water Supply Advisory Committee and in the Technical Advisory Committee. And on the right are communities who are participating in one or more of our sub-regional water supply work groups, which are really much more informal public utilities, county staff who get together and kind of help to scope projects, share water supply plans and ideas. And so that's become a really strong information sharing platform. Next slide. Oh, I have a note to myself. Before I go further, I do want to acknowledge there's a typo on this slide. We've done a variety of technical investigations. I just wanted to highlight a few of them that have shaped a lot of our policy thinking and some of our other planning work. We're collecting a lot of new information, new geologic information, water level information, and water chemistry information, which helps us understand conceptually about the water supply system here. We use that for a variety of purposes, including in our regional groundwater flow model, which has been a really foundational tool for us. Metro Model, we started with Metro Model 2, Metro Model 3 now we're using. The issue of groundwater and surface water interaction continues to be important, and I think we're starting to understand how we really need to think about managing water, recognizing that connection in new ways. So we did an evaluation in 2010, and we're updating it now in 2020, and that's the typo. And we're also doing a variety of sub-regional analyses of alternative water supply approaches. So this is really looking at the water supply systems and getting multiple communities to come together to say, are there some new water supply options that we want to explore jointly? So too big for any one community to take on, but are there opportunities for connections, looking at reuse differently, sharing water efficiency programs, that kind of thing. So we're doing quite a bit of work there as well. Next slide. All of this base of technical information and with the collaboration, the input we've gotten is really shaping how we plan. So one of the big obvious milestones in the past 15 years is the Master Water Supply Plan, which was first adopted in 2010 and updated in 2015 to reflect the regional policies and to support their implementation. One way that that Master Water Supply Plan has a trickle-down effect is that it informs the update of local water supply plans, which is the sort of water supply content part of the local comprehensive plans. So as those local plans are coming in, we're starting to pull out some of the water supply related data. And so that's what these maps are illustrating. And I just wanted to highlight that as we're looking at the future and what the regional magnitude of water supply planning and investment looks like, based on the plans that have come in so far, this is not a complete data set, we still have some plans out there, we see that over 50 communities in the metro and across the region are planning on drilling new wells or replacing wells, which is a big investment for communities. Over 60 communities are going to be doing work on their distribution systems, and over 35 communities are planning to make investments in their water treatment. So this is something that we want to think about. How can we support good planning, good implementation in these water supply decisions going forward? Next slide. I apologize for this slide, but it's absolutely critical. Come back to it later. This is the definition developed with help from water suppliers and state water agencies, and it went through a big public review. This is the Master Water Supply Plan definition of water supply sustainability. I've condensed it a little bit, but it's really important to know that all of our implementation activities focus on advancing us in this direction. So to summarize, our goal is to get the most value out of what we've already invested in existing infrastructure. We have distribution systems, we have treatment, we have wells. We want to get as much value out of that as we can, while we prevent unwanted impacts to our water supply sources, both groundwater and surface water sources. Where increased use of existing infrastructure can't be done without unwanted impacts, maybe increased pumping might impact a trout stream, for example, we have a lot of alternative approaches to help us meet our needs. We have opportunities for more water efficiency. We have opportunities to partner with neighboring communities. There's the potential to use reuse to offset some non-potable demands. So that's something that we're promoting. As part of all of this, we recognize that there's still work to be done to align agency directions on all aspects of water supply. So sustainability needs that alignment in order to be feasible. We also recognize that our approaches, we need to recognize uncertainty, and we need to also be aware our goal is to minimize risk. Changing climate is one of those uncertainties. What effect might that have on our water supply sources, and are our plans taking that into consideration? So I just want you to sit with that for a moment. All of our implementation projects are kind of shaped by this understanding. Sorry, I'm pointing at my screen. I'm not pointing at you. So just to give you an example of sort of what these implementation projects are, I have a couple of highlights here in this presentation. So next slide. One of my favorites, which is led by my colleague Brian Davis, is a partnership with the University of Minnesota's Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, MINTAP. It's the Water Efficiency Intern Program, and it was launched in 2012, and it places student interns in a variety of metro area organizations. Between 2013 and 2017, 20 projects, intern projects, made 159 recommendations. And by 2018, this team went back and looked, did people actually implement those recommendations and what was the impact? And they found that there was a savings of 87 million gallons of water a year and $486,000 a year in those businesses who made recommended changes. That program is still going strong, so we will be coming to you in the future, I know, to give you updates on that, and you'll see how much more water and money we're saving. If you want to know some specific examples, Google MinTap Solutions. They put out a newsletter that showcases each of these projects, and you can learn more details about it. Next slide. Another program that we have begun since 2005 is a water efficiency grant program. Again, Brian Davis is taking the lead on this, and we're seeing some great results. It's highly supported by the communities in the metro and those who are participating and want to participate. We piloted this in 2015 to 2017. This is funded by Clean Water Fund, and the money from the Clean Water Fund comes to the council, and all of it goes back out to the communities. We cover 75%. They kick in 25% to start a local water efficiency program to give out rebates for water efficient fixtures to residents. So on the pilot program, 4,500 total devices were replaced and an estimated 52 million gallons of water was saved. We did not get funding the following round, but we have it now again. So the current program now has 40 communities enrolled. 17 of them are returning communities. And so we're starting to see that kicking in again, and we'll have more results to report back to you in the future. Next slide. A technical project that's been the foundation for a lot of our planning work and also for a lot of our outreach work is the regional groundwater flow model, Metro model. And it's, in addition to helping us with the regional planning, it's also been the starting point for several communities as they do their local wellhead protection models. So it adds value at the local source water protection planning level, as well as the broader regional planning level. And we're actually working on a project right now to use that model to explore some climate scenarios. So you'll be hearing more about that in the future. Next slide. All of this is helping us, what am I trying to say? It's late. We're in a better place than we were in 2005. I have a lot of pride in this work. Ali mentioned I joined the council in 2006, immediately as this was beginning. So I have got to see it grow from a seed into multiple programs, many more than I was able to talk about now, that connects our work to residents directly, businesses, communities, all over the region. And putting this report together and being able to summarize all the projects and programs that we've built really highlighted to me how proud I am of the coworkers that I have, not just in the water supply planning unit, but we also work to integrate water supply planning into the climate vulnerability assessment, for example, so in other parts of the council, and into other organizations. So the partnerships that we're building with partner water agencies and communities, I think is amazing. And because of that, we have a better understanding of our shared resources, and we have a much better understanding of our challenges. We have a successful sub-regional collaboration in place that's advancing water sustainability goals. We need to keep building those relationships, but we've gone from 20 communities participating in these sort of sub-regional work groups in 2005 to 72 communities being represented now. We have better management and better long-term resiliency of our shared resources. We have more resources focused on regional water supply challenges, and all of that together means that we're all, when I say we, I mean residents, businesses, the council, agencies. We're better equipped to pursue next steps. And next slide, for those of you who might prefer numbers to bullet point text, I just wanted to end with this. I've mentioned the communities participating in work groups and those receiving grants. I mean, these are some changes. These are This is more investment in water supply planning than we had 15 years ago. But in terms of water use, I just wanted to bring up this graph on the right. The dark blue line is groundwater use through time from the 1940s to now, essentially. The green line is surface water use of the Mississippi River over time. So the gray is combined. That's the total metro water use over time. And you'll see that we very steadily increased our water use as the region grew, as our population went up, until the 2000s, and it's begun to plateau. There are a variety of reasons that contribute to that. We had the Great Recession. We have some wet years the past few years. However, that plateau period also does include pretty severe drought years, and we bounced back with there's a lot of building. We were seeing some building during this time as the recession ended. So another contributing factor to that plateau is our understanding of the region's water needs and our improvements for water efficiency. We've seen some really great strides in using water more wisely, more efficiently in the region. And so we'll continue to watch this trend and see how it evolves as we continue to do our work. But that's a pretty exciting, it's one of the more exciting graphs I look at. So that's kind of the content that's included in this report. There's much more detail in the report, and there's clearly much more detail in the different projects that are included in the bibliography. The next step for the report is to submit it to the Minnesota legislature as part of the Minnesota Water Plan. So we want to share what we've done with others so they know that this statutory charge that they gave us, we took it seriously, and we have done work and moved in the direction that we were asked to move, and that we have built relationships and built support for this work. The next steps for water supply planning are much bigger than this report. So recent meetings of the Environment Committee and our MOSAC and TAC and the Land Use Advisory Committee have been raising some questions that I think will be of no surprise to you. How can equity be implemented in water supply planning activities? What's the impact of climate change on our resources and also on our operations in the water supply sector? How can we continue to strengthen land use and water supply planning connections? What can we do to prevent contamination of our water supply sources now so that in the future, we're not asking others to clean up after us? We have a lot of legacy contamination. It would be nice if we were not creating legacy contamination. How can we respond more effectively to emerging contamination? I think the example of PFAS contamination from 3M in the East Metro is a good example of that. Also chloride. It's showing up more and more in our surface waters, and it's moving deeper and deeper down into our aquifer systems. So it's really pervading our entire water cycle. So as we think about these questions and others, we're continuing to work with our advisory committees and our community collaborators. And some of that work is going to come back to you as we start to think about future policy considerations. So this work we've been doing is really setting the foundation for, are our policies adequate? Are they supporting us moving in the direction that we need to go? So that's something you'll be hearing more of. And a lot of this work that we're doing and the new work that we'll continue to do with guidance from our partners is going to be shaping some of those local projects. So in your communities, there may be some projects that are done there. So I'm just going to end by reiterating, this is all part of the water cycle. It doesn't have an end. So this is just a nice place to kind of report on where we are now. And I think it's a nice tool to be able to pass on to the new people we hire so they know what we've done, so they can continue the work. As we move into different positions, leave the council, sharing that knowledge I think is really important as well. Thank you for your patience, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lenya, and wow, what a great presentation. That was wonderful. I now, water is so critical in the land of water. We are so often taking it for granted. So actually getting deep data and understanding of where that supply is and where our usage is and the implications that you ended with, the questions for the future. And I I say for one now, I am a total admirer of geeks who read appendixes deeply. So I'm going to look at that carefully. And but I know that this does have policy implications for us, and I think it's incumbent upon us to have a greater understanding of the good work we're doing as Met Council, where we're going to take it going forward. So let's open it up. Any questions, comments from council members? Councilmember Lindstrom.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just want to say, sometimes on the council we hear numbers, big numbers, millions of gallons daily, millions of gallons a year, and sometimes for me it's hard to really like put into context what that means. And Lanya, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said the water efficiency grants save around like 52 million gallons annually, and if I recall correctly from previous presentations, that's about the annual usage of a small city on an annual basis. And then you combine that with the MinTap program and another 80 million gallons, give or take, which you just mentioned. Now we're including another small city. I mean, that is significant amount of water savings and financial savings for businesses and homeowners as well. And I would encourage council members to check out what the cities are doing in their own districts. So, for example, in my district, New Brighton is providing low flow toilets to apartment complexes. Super cool program. I mean, just one apartment complex in New Brighton is saving 1 million gallons annually in water. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's fantastic. In Woodbury, they've got a smart irrigation program that they've run where they are providing smart irrigators for $20, I think, or $35. That's what it is, $35. These smart irrigation systems usually run well in the $200 to $300 range. And so now you're not driving by a lawn when it's a day like today and raining out, and you're seeing the water spraying everywhere. That's saving huge amounts of money. Not to mention, oftentimes these irrigation systems have leaks that are underground where you can get hundreds of gallons of water just being lost to the ground, and you never know it if you don't have one of these smart irrigation systems. So, and that's just two examples of cities doing really cool projects out there. So please check that out, council members. Thank you, Lanya.
Anyone else? Thanks, Peter. Well, hearing no other comments, again, I'll thank Lanya again and Ali, and I think again we will be interested how this is received at the legislature, and also certainly want to hear more about as we follow up some of this good work. So now I just want to open it up and I'm sorry. Did somebody have something? No. If any council members, you do have anything to share, I often forget to ask, but I want to make sure if anybody has any reports, comments. Generally, Councilmember Vento.
Mr. Chair.
You have a nice friend who's joined you here.
Yes, yeah, he's in kind of tough shape today, so I'm trying to be a good puppy mom. As the council representative on the Environmental Quality Board, just wanted to let you know that at today's meeting, the board, which I'm an ex officio member of and don't have a vote, but from time to time am known to speak. The board approved the state water plan, the 2020 state water plan, which is due next week. And I do want to report that it was not without significant public comment. And it's the line 3 issue is a very contentious one. It's one that raises not only environmental problems, but social justice. And I think it was a tough afternoon for the members of the Environmental Quality Board. Nevertheless, they did approve it 11-1. We also had a presentation on a sand mine in Fillmore County in southeastern Minnesota, my home county, and a lot of discussion on that. And I logged off just as they were having a presentation on the state pollinator plan. So there's a lot happening with EQB. Water has been and continues to be a big, big part of it. And for those of us who are in districts where water quality has been and healthy living has been a serious factor, it's work that continues. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vento, and thank you for representing us, and me in particular. It really is great to have you at the EQB. These are important issues. Those are long meetings, but they're really key, particularly when water plans and issues always have complexity. So, yeah, absolutely. And sand, and that silicon sand mining has been before the EQB for, I don't know, 8 years, and as it supports some fracking. So that's always also controversial issues as it would consider environmental impacts. Any other comments, thoughts? If not, I know, is there any comments from our Office of General Counsel? I know Ann isn't here, but Dave is. Any comments?
Mr. Chair, no. This is Dave.
Thanks, Dave. And Mary, our acting regional administrator, any reports?
No further reports, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Well, hearing none, I have nothing else to report at this time. So you have a few extra minutes to your day. Good to see everyone. Thank you for these great information, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all your work.